Okay, hello and welcome everyone. My name is Connie Lauer and I'm a lead faculty at UAGC. Today, I'm pleased to be the host of Developing an AI Attitude, a prerequisite for technology adoption. By joining us today, you acknowledge that this session is being recorded and will be shared with TLC-related materials. Microphones will be muted for this presentation, but we encourage you to post questions and comments in the chat. Also, we have enabled live transcription. If you would like to use it, click the Show Captions button at the bottom of your Zoom window. Now I'm excited to introduce you to Dr. Latonya Dennis. Dr. Dennis is an AI expert. She's also a management consultant and project manager with 25 years of experience in leadership roles in the public and private sectors. She graduated from National University, earning her PhD in technology management with a specialization in computer science, and graduated in 3 years with a 4.0 GPA. Her doctoral research was on AI technology job loss. Dr. Dennis is passionate about human-centered approaches to technology adoption and digital transformation. She is currently an associate faculty member in the Master of Technology Management program, and she teaches doctoral students and serves as a subject matter expert for the dissertation process in the Technology Innovation Management PhD program at National University, her alma mater. So, Dr. Dennis, take it away.
Okay, well, welcome. Thank you so much, Professor Lower. I'm so thankful for you and also for the conference host, the opportunity to be here today. I just want to make sure everyone can hear me okay. If you can't, please let me know. So this presentation is on developing an AI attitude, a prerequisite for technology adoption. And I am Dr. Latonya Dennis, who I'm also associate faculty here at University of Arizona Global Campus. And today we're going to be talking specifically about 4 areas. One, I'm going to start with an introduction and a background. I'll provide some research and findings. Also, I'll discuss how to move forward, and I'll open it up for questions at the end, which will likely be in the chat. So I'm sure you have seen the headlines, such as the faculty often are missing from the university decisions on AI. Are college professors still relevant in the age of AI? How about this one? Roxbury Community College to BU, colleges are using AI to cut down on operating costs. Will AI replace professors? Morehouse to use AI teaching assistants this fall. Within 10 years, AI will replace many doctors and teachers. Humans won't be needed for most things. OpenAI claims GPT-5 model boosts ChatGPT to PhD level. Will generative AI replace teachers in higher education? And what can college instructors offer their students in the age of AI? So my question to you, and I want you to think about this, what thoughts come to mind when you see these headlines? Do you feel fearful? Do you feel motivated? Is there ambiguity? Is there uncertainty? Are you excited? So when I enter the various words, combining faculty, staff, AI, and change into ChatGPT, I came up with these words. First, intelligence and professors, they go hand in hand. But there are also words such as privacy, misuse, displacement, fear, ethics, obsolescence. These are all words that come up when you enter the prompt of combining faculty, staff, AI, and change. So I wonder, do you have any of these thoughts when you think of artificial intelligence and professors? So in a recent article in the spring in the UAGC Chronicle, they published an article that I wrote called Developing an AI Attitude, a prerequisite for technology adoption. So in this article, which was a precursor to this presentation, and then hopefully to a published paper that I'll submit shortly on this topic, the first thing that I cover is what is an AI attitude and why is it needed? And I'll talk about that here in a moment. Also, how do you develop an AI attitude? If you know what it is, how do you develop an AI attitude? And then thirdly, how do we cultivate an attitude, an AI attitude in others? Because it's not enough to just have an AI attitude yourself, but it's also important that your team, the folks you work with, also have a similar understanding of AI. So, what is an AI attitude? This is a definition that I developed that was based on my dissertation, which was on technology job loss and a variety of topics related to that. So, an AI attitude is a posture or mindset toward AI in which the individual is open to learning to use AI tools that are fundamental to career advancement and job security. So what does that look like for you as faculty or staff or a student? What does that look like as an employee to you or employer? What do you need to do to posture yourself to be open to learning and to use AI tools? And the reason why I approach it from this standpoint is simply because we don't have a choice. I'm sure you can, you read headlines, you see what's happening in the news. We have to position ourselves to be more accepting of AI. It doesn't necessarily mean that we have to allow it in every aspect of our lives. I can tell you personally, there are certain aspects of AI that I'm not trustworthy of. There are certain tools that I don't personally use in my home or my daily life because I don't feel that there is enough regulation around them and around the data regarding the use of them. However, it is important that we approach AI with a certain attitude of openness and curiosity because the research shows that if we don't, there are oftentimes some challenges that we might face along the way. And we'll talk about that in a moment. So, what do we need to do to develop an AI attitude? We first need to take a self-assessment. So I'm going to ask you to take a few moments on a piece of paper that you have, and I want you to go through these 4 questions and we'll talk about that. So the first question is, if you're going to have an AI attitude, I want you to ask yourself, do you believe that AI will improve your life on a scale of 1 to 10? What do you think? Will AI improve your life? And then secondly, I believe that AI will improve my work. Is that something you believe? Do you believe that AI will improve your work on a scale of 1 to 10? What are your thoughts? Your first answer, first thought that comes to mind. And then I think I will use AI technology in the future on a scale of 1 to 10. And then finally, I think AI technology is positive for humanity. And we can talk about that a little bit more later. So if you take these numbers and you add them up, the higher your number, the more likely and open you are to artificial intelligence in your life, and you would probably have a higher, I would say a higher AI attitude uh, number. So you have the likelihood of having a more positive attitude about artificial intelligence than someone who does not. And this survey, this scale came from an article that I used as a part of my dissertation research, and I'll share the link to that and the research behind it. But this is something to think about. If you ranked high, if you got in the 40, 30, 40 range, then you're very likely very positive about AI. You have a strong attitude about it currently. But if not, there are some things that we can do, and we'll talk about solutions here. A growth mindset. So this is a growth mindset assessment that I'll give you an opportunity to do at the end of the presentation. It takes a little longer than the first one, but this is based on Dr. Carol Dweck's research on a fixed or growth mindset. Fixed mindsets, people with fixed mindsets assume innate intelligence. People are born smart, the appearance of talent. And then growth mindsets believe in education as a means to increase knowledge, love, or learning. So, do you have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset? Typically, if your mindset is more aligned with fixed mindset, you probably believe that it's a little bit tougher to learn things because people are born with a certain amount of smarts. And if you have a growth mindset, you're probably more likely to be open to change and open to learning new things. And so these are some things that I want you to think about after the class. I have provided a link to this assessment so that you can spend some time looking at it and thinking about it in conjunction with the AI attitude assessment and some of your feelings about AI in general and how it impacts your life. I do want to say this as we get into the research snapshot. Oftentimes, what the research is showing is that not just your own personal experience, but the experience of your family, neighbors, people that you know with AI, it oftentimes impacts your opinion of it. So if you have or know of someone who was negatively impacted by AI, you may have a lower score. So let's talk about the research that I've done. I've done a literary review synthesis. There'll be a lot more details to follow. I'm going to provide a snapshot here. So the themes that are consistent is faculty sentiment, student sentiment, policies for AI, training for faculty. This is really a big one. The way forward, what do we do now? And then faculty involvement in decision making, because we've seen that there are a lot of decisions that are made, but faculty may not necessarily be involved in those. And so, based on those themes, the research that I have gathered shows some consistencies. When it comes to faculty sentiment, typically what I've seen in the research is that the more comfortable you are with AR, the more likely you are and comfortable you are with using it, and you see it less of a threat. However, if you feel that it is a threat, then you may not use it as much or recommend it for your students. Also, another author described the fact that AI has pros and cons. However, there is concern that it will replace faculty. These are thoughts that have been on the minds of faculty. There's others that have research has shown that faculty would not be replaced, and this is research that was done with faculty. And most of the studies were at least 100 participants. And student sentiment shows that students that use AI are more skilled than faculty. That's a little alarming, don't you think? AI is ubiquitous in its use among students and it's often used. And that means everything from ChatGPT to Grammarly to Gemini, no matter what tool they're using ChatGPT quite a lot. They're also highly motivated to use it. And they also feel that faculty would not be replaced. Policies for AI use, I would say across the board, are pretty consistent. There are a few policies for AI use. AI guidelines for training is typically in place for students, but not so much for the overall use in the university or for faculty. So there has to be some policies around AI use. Also, training for faculty is highly needed. I'll say that AI literacy and skills are typically lacking for faculty, and this may be for a variety of reasons, partly because there's limited professional development available at times. Also, faculty are sometimes they take a little longer, I would say, to sometimes shift and change with some of the latest trends. And because AI is changing so rapidly, there is some catching up that has to happen. The way forward, what's the roadmap? So, further research on required training and staff skills is critical to serve students, because in order for us to be able to teach, we must have the training and the skills that are going to allow us to help and support our students. Also, training is incredibly important for adoption. And also, AI policy and training must be implemented. It has to be implemented across the board in an organized and in a fashion that is inclusive of faculty. And that goes back to the faculty involvement in decision making. My last point here, there's a lot of ambiguity on university plans for AI adoption. This is really something that I've seen across the board where there's little to no involvement in decision making regarding faculty for the use of AI tools or its implementation in the university setting. And this oftentimes can create a level of concern, I would say, among faculty, what I've been reading and researching. This creates a level of concern where they feel that they're not involved. And this is across the board, whether you're faculty or employee at a company. What I typically see and have seen firsthand is that when people are not involved and they don't have a buy-in, they don't feel ownership to the changes that are being made, whatever those changes may be, they may push back. And this is really just human nature, I would say. Okay. So why do we resist technology adoption? I hold on to the technology acceptance model because when I think of motivation and when I think of um, introducing new things, people have a perceived impression of its usefulness. So when you're introducing a tool, they have to feel that it's going to benefit them, right? And so there has to be a perceived ease of use for some people and then a perceived usefulness for others, and that will shape the attitude toward using the tool. So if people don't feel there's any benefit to using, you know, Otter AI or some new tool that's being introduced at the university level, or in your everyday work, you would be less likely typically to adopt it. And it also has to be easy. And I'll say this, when you're introducing new things in an organization, you really must spend the time working with people at all levels. This is what the research has shown, and I've seen this in my career. Because if people feel like they're being put upon, or if they feel like they're not involved in the process of making the decisions for things that are happening to their work and in their work, they often push back. And we all know that work is oftentimes a very sensitive thing. We find work to be part of our identity. Many of us do. And so when there are changes made to work, people need to be engaged. Out of this, you would have more positive system use, better adoption if people are engaged throughout the processes, specifically from the beginning. So, what can employers do? Human-centered digital transformations. I like to say human-centered. They can have employee-focused projects, and this looks like including people who are going to be impacted by the change in the change from the ground level. When you're beginning the process of considering a change, there should all levels of staff should be involved, the faculty and staff should be involved in the process. Also, protect employees from burnout. When they're starting a new tool or a new system, they should be monitored, perhaps started on a gradual basis, maybe not, all at once. That oftentimes gives people a chance to adjust to the new tools and what it will mean for their work. Accept feedback. This is huge because the work is very close and deeply connected. Our work is deeply connected to oftentimes our esteem, our identity, our self-worth. And not that that's the best way to approach work. However, that's just the fact. And so accepting feedback from staff, faculty, employees is a huge part of having a successful digital transformation. And then fostering tech and human collaboration. So this includes when you're introducing something new, making sure that you are fostering the collaboration between the two. You're not just putting a new robot, let's say, in the workplace and expecting people to fix or learn how to work with it or learn how to adopt or adapt to it rather, but you are allowing things to happen over time in a gradual way. And what can employees do? Faculty, staff, no matter your role, you can assess your skills gaps. And we'll talk about this in a moment. What are your gaps? What do you need to do to change? And I'll talk about this in detail in the next slide or two when I share a skills gap assessment, but this is a constant process. It's cyclical. You're regularly assessing your skills, what skills you have, where you need to grow, what skills are strong, what skills are weak, and you need to be paying attention to what's happening in the market and what skills are needed. And I'll talk even more about this in my next presentation that's coming up after this one, where I get into focus and power skills. So participate in workplace training. This is huge. And the reason why I say this is because at times training is offered, and what we've seen is not everyone accepts or participates in training. Maybe they don't feel like there's a need for it. They feel like it's optional, but I highly recommend participating in training. The reason why is because this goes toward your AI attitude. If you are uncomfortable with change, it's likely that you may sometimes pull back from the training that's being offered by your employer. So participating in workplace training is huge. And also from the employer standpoint, everyone needs training. So it shouldn't just be a group of leaders or faculty. It should be done on an organizational wide basis. Get training outside of work. So I've had this ongoing question that I've asked my students. This was a part of a question in my dissertation research. Who's responsible for training? Is it your job to go out and get the training on the skills that you see or the tools that you see are marketable or that are hot in the industry right now? Or is it your employer's responsibility? There's differences of opinion on that, and I will say, based on research, that if your employer offers you training, you should take it and get as much as you can get. And that means if they offer tools, if they offer training platforms, whatever they're offering, I would definitely get it and also get training outside of work. Having a continuous learning mindset is huge. Because again, if you think of a college administrator or a manager who is investing $1 million, let's say, into a tool or a new system, and if they do that and people are apprehensive about using it, that creates a lot of challenge. So we want to make sure that we are open to use the tools, that we are, I would say, managing our resources well from all aspects. And fostering an AI attitude in the organization, it includes stakeholder management. And what this is any and everybody who is a part of the process or the organization. And in a university, it could be the parents, the students, the alumni organization. It could be everyone working inside of your organization who are stakeholders, who have some sort of impact, some sort of involvement to the work that you're doing. Making sure that you're fostering that and talking about it at all levels. Maintaining a learning mindset, and I mentioned this a moment ago, and this is because, again, if you're not consistently learning, you're really falling behind, specifically in an AI, in the age of AI. After I finished my doctorate, I went and got another certification. I'm consistently looking for things to learn and to grow in, because if I'm not learning and growing, we know we are not moving forward and progressing, and we're not benefiting our students. Reevaluating your mission and goals. So why do you do what you do? This is your personal mission and goals in terms of your own personal life. And then also for the organization. Because oftentimes, once you learn more things, you realize, well, maybe the way we were doing it isn't the right way. Maybe we need to reassess. Maybe we need to adjust our goals, our approach, based on the market, based on the way things are progressing. So this is a constant process of assessing and fostering the AI attitude, which is a collective responsibility. So I want to ask now if there are any thoughts, final thoughts, or questions, because everything must change. Nothing stays the same, especially with AI. So, what questions or thoughts do you have? Do you want to put something in the chat? Yes, please put them in the chat. I can't hear people speaking for some reason. There's an issue. No questions? I'm not seeing anything yet on the chat. Thank you. Yeah, there was some interesting research that I found when I did my dissertation. In fact, it was a business in, I think it was in Asia, where the company owners introduced some new software, and they found that the software, essentially their entire effort was being sabotaged because they didn't properly educate and inform and include the employees at all levels. And can you imagine, like I said, investing $1 million in a tool or software, and people that are assigned to use it are not taking it seriously, or perhaps sabotaging it with their communication, perhaps breaking it, doing things that you were never meant to do with the software, and it not being used. Originally, I'll say, when AI was beginning to pick up steam in the last few years, we were not seeing as much profit from AI in the beginning. And there was some research that came out that talked about how perhaps people are threatened by it. People, don't know what to do with it, how to use it. They're threatened by it. And so now it's to the point where people truly feel like, they don't have a choice. They know they're going to have to use it, and they're doing what they have to do to learn and grow. And I encourage you to do that. A little afraid. Yeah, I think that if you're, having a score between 30 and 40, that's great. It's probably cautious optimism because, I'll say that, even a techie person as I am, I don't have certain tools, and I don't have Alexa. I don't use facial recognition on my iPhone. There are just certain things I don't do, because of the fact that I understand what's happening sometimes in the background with data and privacy issues. So, what if, for example, a teacher has to do all of their grading and discussion posting? Seems like the expertise of the faculty member is not being employed. That's a good point. You're right. Yeah, I mean, that's why I don't actually use AI in some of the work that I do. Even, doing citations. Some people, just take their citations and put them in Chat GPT, and it comes out APA 7 perfect. I don't do that. I want to spend the time doing the work. And, there was actually recent research which talked about how the more you use AI, the less brain energy that they've noticed on scans, in terms of you pretty much, giving away your knowledge. I wouldn't say knowledge, but your 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 insights, or turning that over to the tool to use to do that for you, and your brain power isn't. I know I'm saying this wrong, but you're not using your brain as you should. I'll say it that way. Yes, the parts you don't use. Thank you for that. I want to make sure I didn't miss anyone. Training in the workplace. Yes, there was training recently at UAGC, which was great. Express concern because AI is being used for clinical notes, and these notes have, yeah. Well, I'm sure that, if you're teaching, you see people turn in work all the time that you suspect is probably AI. And you definitely have to have a conversation with them, stop, think about it. But here's the thing, if you're in school and you're here to learn, my hope is that you're actually here and you want to learn and not just get a grade. And if you're here for a grade only, just to pass through, then you might just use AI to do it. However, if you really want to learn and grow as a person and contribute to society positively, you actually need to do the work. So AI is not going to be able to shouldn't be doing everything for you. Yeah, it's important to free up. I absolutely agree, and I use it to free up some of the tasks that I have to do. However, there are some things that, again, I said for privacy and regulatory data issues, security issues, I don't use Alexa in my home um, because I know what's happening on the other end, and I also don't use facial recognition software on my cell phone. So there are a few things that I'm very careful of. And I think there needs to be more regulation in the US before we get into doing that. Any other questions, comments, thoughts? These are great comments and thoughts. Thank you all so much. I hope that you are able to attend my next presentation. It's on soft skills, and this is how we implement, um, actually getting skills. This is one of the ways that research has shown for you to actually begin to implement having an AI attitude. Okay, thank you, Professor Laura. Please do.
So,
Thank you.
yes, thank you, Dr. Dennis, for an extremely relevant presentation about assuming an AI attitude. And trying to get a video on.
Thank you.
And thank you to the audience for your participation in today's session. I think Andre is going to put a survey link in the chat if you want to nominate this TLC presentation for a conference award or share your feedback on the presentation. And enjoy the rest of the conference today. Thank you very much for coming, and thank you, Dr. Dennis.